Maxx C banned soon. I feel like that's huge copium. There's no way, unless the Western player base was like experiencing a mass exodus. I don't think Konami will ever ban Maxx C. They just don't need to, because everyone plays the game anyway. People don't quit the game because Maxx C exists, so why would they ban it? It doesn't make any sense.
I think we're just gonna start with like the elephant in the room, which is what happened exactly like yesterday. They dropped the ban list.
That was weird. It was paused, but it's fine now.
And I have not looked at it in detail yet this morning because I wanted to keep my initial reaction to most of the things. But I've seen that it
smart content creator, great streamer, excellent Joshua Schmidt, very good moves.
Has more hits than usual, so I'm excited for that. Cards to be unlimited. Okay, so we're going from unlimited to the bigger hits. Okay, Nadir Servant from 2 to 3. That is completely fine in my book. The Dogmatica engine has not done much. Ancient Fairy Dragon from 1 to 3 also makes perfect sense. I'm gonna be honest with you. Ancient Fairy Dragon is one of those cards that there's no difference between this card being at 1 or at 3. 99.9% of the decks are gonna use only one copy if they're gonna use it. Gears to the Orcust Mech Knight from 2 to 3 is just decluttering, honestly. This card had no business being at 2. And that's it. That's all the unlimits. Okay, just decluttering of the ban list, honestly. I like it. Cards to be semi-limited. Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos. Dude, this is a good point of the stream to bring this up. I saw this the other day. They are printing a Dragon Ruler rank 7 XYZ monster called Blaze, the Supreme Ruler of Dragons. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I could not be more excited. Pot of Extravagance from 3 to 2. Okay, not something I expected. Not something I would have said.
Wait, why not explain? No. Just because it's Dragon Rollers? Okay.
Was necessary, but I get it. I don't hate it. Luster Pendulum from 1 to 2. Fair enough. Haven't seen this card in forever in Master Duel. And now we go to the hits, mostly. I mean, Extravagance was the first hit, technically, but here we have cards to be limited, and I immediately see Branded Fusion. This one does not feel necessary to me. I didn't feel like Branded was...
Fuck Branded. I don't give a fuck about Branded. Branded can suck a dick, okay? Branded... Despia is disgusting. The fact that they could do whatever the fuck they want and then at the end of their turn get back Cartesia, get back Ecclesia, set Branded Regained, right? Bestial Regained, or set Branded Beast, set a Branded Despia special summon, fusion summon on quick play spell. Fuck all that shit. The fact that they could do everything and then just recover like 4 or 5 cards at the end of their turn. Fuck that. I hate it so much. It's just dumb. It's the dumbest fucking thing. It's like, what is the cost? The cost was nothing. You literally get everything back at the end of the turn. Yeah, in archetype banishment, right? And then they have also Branded in red. That's what I meant. The quick play fusion spell, right? It's so bullshit.
Oppressive at all? Just looking at Branded as a whole,
it's a down payment, not a cost. Exactly. There is no cost to play any of this.
See why you want to hit that deck, right? Even though it's not the best deck in Master Duel right now, it is powerful, so you could argue it warrants a hit. It's just another one of those consistency hits, right? That I'm not
consistency
a fan
hits.
All right.
Why are you not a fan of it? Fuck that deck. No, I get it. It's fine. But I hate that deck.
I mean, 1 grass? That's a weird place to put grass. Grass?
It is weird. Just ban it. Like, it's just such a, like, topsy-turvy. It's so impactful. Basically now, like, before 60 card decks is, like, if they get it, they win. If they don't, they lose. Now, it's the same thing, but it's just a lot harder to get it, right? And it's just Konami. I guess they're like tiptoeing. They're like basically babying OCG or something. I don't know what their intent is. It's just like, oh, but you could still play your 60 card deck. You could still play your 60 card deck, you little 60 card Andy, you little piece of shit. You could still play it. The grass looks greener. It's still in the game. It's still in the game. You can only play 1, but it's you could still play it. It's okay. It's like, okay. It's just more sacky. Grass looks greener at 1 is just more sacky. It's never gonna feel good to lose against this, right? And when they do get it, most of their games are going to feel like shit. As a 60 card Andy that is focused on discards and mills, most of their games are going to feel like shit because they're just not going to get the grass. And when they do get it, it's going to feel like absolute shit to lose against it because it's one. You get sacked.
To me, it just feels like a card that you either want it in the game,
yeah,
and then
0
it should
or
be
3.
at 3, because then people actually can play 60 card decks and have a realistic chance of seeing the card, or it should be at 0, like how the TCG handles it. I feel like putting it at 1 or 2 is such a weird decision, but it's a very OCG / Master Duel decision. It's very on brand.
Yep, it's on brand because OCG, Konami, Master Duel, they want you to play whatever you want. They want you to play whatever you want. That's why they keep Maxx C, because Maxx C keeps every deck in check, but they don't have to ban, they don't have to create a super overbloated ban list. Who cares? Like, it's so dumb. It's so dumb that the game has to sacrifice as a whole just because they're trying to accommodate all the little, like, 5 people that play, like, this deck, that deck, and now with the Grass Looks Greener, there's definitely only going to be, like, less than 5 people that play 60 card decks.
Kelbeck finally goes to
60
1.
man,
God
60 card
damn,
grass
dude.
decks,
I never
anyway.
understood why Kelbeck was the one they left at 2, because it was also by far the best one. It didn't make any sense to me, but all right. Kelbeck to 1 finally. Jet to 1, that does make sense. Card is very, very strong.
Yep.
Once again, the freaking Jet is a consistency hit, which I don't like. But they've done it. Whatever. Fine. I guess. Now your deck only...
I don't know why he doesn't like consistency hits. It's like... they're just nerfs, right? They're nerfs to a deck that's overperforming or doing very well, right? Just because it's an anti-consistency? I'm not understanding. It's like these decks are doing pretty well and they're trying to balance it out and bring it more in line with other archetypes. Let other archetypes kind of come out more, right? Deter them from playing this deck, right? Because it's going to be weaker. Like, what's the hate for consistency hits? I don't get that. Consistency hits doesn't fundamentally change the deck's peak power. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not a great way to hit most of these decks, as it plays just as much, just slightly less. His Swap Frog argument explains it. Okay.
Only has, what is it, 2 blue, 1 jet, 2 starter. It's kind of annoying that they're going about it that way instead of banning Elf, right? Elf is still around. Swap Frog, that is a hit that I think is very good. This is the exact opposite of a consistency hit, because Swap Frog was not a consistency card. And by limiting Swap Frog, you're doing something very interesting. You're just reducing the amount of times you can use Ronin Totem. This is a resource hit. This is not a consistency hit. It's a pure hit on the resources of the deck, where like what you used to do was you would Gigantic for Swap Frog, send a Ronin Totem, then you would link off the Swap Frog for an Elf, bring back the Swap Frog to send the other Swap Frog, bring back the Ronin, link them off, and then you could bring the Ronin back once more. So it was a lot of bodies that you accumulated from having 2 Swap Frogs. The funny thing is, you can still do that by playing one other frog. Dupe Frog would probably be the least bad one. It changes how often you will open Swap Frog, because of course drawing Dupe Frog is not as good as drawing Swap Frog, right? The Swap Frog limit I'm a fan of because it's not purely a consistency hit. Cards to be...
Okay, I get that. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so you're saying a hit to the overall power level and the overall ability to reach certain like power spikes. That's what you prefer over consistency hits. I don't really think, like, yeah, that is good, but I don't think consistency hits are necessarily bad either. I don't think you need to like demolish a deck, right? I don't think demolishing a deck is the way, like, is the ideal. I think if you are able to, they are able to play their deck, right? It is better, especially if it's. The reason why I don't like, okay, that does seem a little contradictory, especially when I talk about grass, right? But the reason why I hate grass is because it's cringe. It's because like Jet isn't a blowout card. You opening a Jet isn't a blowout card, right? But nerfing Jet is a consistency hit, right? Grass being limited is a blowout card, and you know, I feel like it's just fundamentally bad design. I think it would be better off just banned. I feel like they don't really deserve to be able to be played. Whereas Sprite, like, it's a combo deck. It's a very consistent deck. It makes, I don't know, it plays Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I don't see Jet as a blowout card. If you resolve Grass is Greener, you are so far ahead of your opponent. Most of the time, you're winning. Most of the time, you've won just by playing that one card. Jet isn't that. The consistency hit, I think, is fine because it allows them to still play the deck. It's not what they totally depend on. And Sprite itself is something that can be balanced. Like, Sprite is an archetype that can be balanced. The difference between Sprite and 60-card Grass decks is that 60-card Grass decks cannot be balanced because inherently their design is atrocious, right? They're encouraging you to build the deck in the wrong way, and they reward you for doing so by just saying you could play this one card, you open this one card, you win the game, right? Whereas with Jet, it's like, no, it's like Sprites, you don't need to open just one card. You have to open, you know, a combination of cards, right? You also have to play the game. When you play like Grass is Greener, you're not really playing. You just played Grass is Greener, and then the world is your oyster. Why you say playing 60 is the wrong way? Because in any card game, right, the ideal, what you need to do is improve your consistency, right? The idea is to create a tight-knit engine that is, you're fighting for space in your deck, right? You are meant to choose, like, what the cards are in your deck, I guess, very carefully. With a 60-card deck, it's either one of two things. It's either you play so many cards that are super generic and will work on their own, that such that it doesn't matter which ones you draw. And I feel like that's just a dumb way to play Yu-Gi-Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh is an archetypical game by its nature. I feel like a mixed hodgepodge of XYZ decks is not in line with Yu-Gi-Oh, like Yu-Gi-Oh spirit, personally, right? That's why people hate generic monsters. It's either that, or it's playing grass. It's playing a grass mill deck. And then at that point, you're basically saying that if I don't draw grass, I lose, right? There's a high chance I lose. And I think that is just a horribly designed deck. That's a horribly designed idea. I'm definitely Red News Public Enemy since I play Pendulum 60 Pile. Well, I mean, you can play what you want. I just don't like it. I think some run 60 to not get decked by Runic when it was popular. You could say that they are playing the game wrong, but the alternative is running Blind Floodgate. No. Well, see, that's why I hate Runics too. I don't think Runics should exist either. I don't think Runics should exist either, because fundamentally for that reason. It's because it changes card games way too much for it to be fun. Like, the idea that I have to literally build my deck in a worse way just so that I avoid getting killed by this stupid ass combo deck, I feel like that's a horrible idea. I feel like that's really bad, because it's like, you have to build your deck in a certain way to not auto lose against them, but at the same time, they're not going to represent that many players. They're just not going to. Reno Jackson was a card in Hearthstone that fundamentally changed how, like, you should build your deck if you wanted to play Reno Jackson. And I think that was a good design decision, because you had to put a lot of interesting one-ofs in your deck. Reno Jackson, if you don't know, Reno Jackson was a 5-drop in Hearthstone where if every card in your deck, there's only one copy of them, then Reno Jackson would, I think, heal you for a bunch, and I think he would draw you some cards, right? Let me read Reno Jackson. Okay, no. Yeah, he doesn't draw you cards, okay? He's not that ridiculous. If your deck has no duplicates, fully heal your hero. I think Reno Jackson is a card kind of similar to Grass is Greener. Reno Jackson versus Grasslook Screener. I feel like Reno Jackson, it fundamentally changes how you're supposed to build your deck, but it does it in a more fun way. And I feel like Reno Jackson wasn't like an auto win, right? It wasn't an auto win condition. Whereas with grass, the balancing on grass is so horrible, because what grass does is it allows you to use any good graveyard effect, right? And with a legacy game like Yu-Gi-Oh, that was just fucking ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous because they were not balanced ever with 60 card with Grasslook Screener in mind. They were never designed for that. But Konami just says, oh, fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's just put it in the game. Let's continue the video.
Ooh, Rongo ban. That is surprisingly good. Yeah, I didn't expect them to do this. This is catching me off.
That's like another thing, right? Like Rongo Miniad. That's a good ban, right? Just like limiting Grasslook Screener. Grasslook Screener should be a ban, but limiting Grasslook Screener is also a good hit. When the stars align and these cards come out and these cards are played, the fact that they just run away with the game and create such an insurmountable advantage is stupid, in my opinion.
Guard right now. I did not expect them to make a good decision like that. Up until this point, this ban list consisted of some good unlimits and then some kind of questionable consistency hits. A lot of stuff that, like, I see why you want to hit those decks, but I just don't really agree with how you're hitting those decks. But here, we've got some actual good stuff happening. This card has hardly done anything good, right? The card is not super popular. With the Yu-Gi-Oh ban list, it's not always about how popular is this card, how high is the win rate of this card. It's also sometimes just about how fun is a card. And freaking this card, ever since it was printed, has never done anything good for the game. This is simply a very good riddance.
Neither did Grasslook Screener.
Oh, is banned. Now, okay. This one is funny to me because from a pure logical standpoint, this does not make any sense. Because this is the worst Ishizu card. However, it still is overall a good hit, I guess. Because let me be real with you, all the Ishizu cards should be banned. Are all the other Ultra... I know Kelbeck is an Ultra and Keldo is an Ultra. I think Mudora is also Super. I guess that might be their reasoning. Hands down. It just might be that. And then...
I think the reason why Kelbeck gets to stay is because Kelbeck is more interesting. Right? I think special summoning and bouncing a card is more interesting than a yugioh. And I think... You know, it's not... I mean, I wouldn't mind the Ishizus getting banned altogether. But, I mean, Kelbeck being able to stay, I don't mind either.
We have Bish Balkan. Okay, this is a card that, similar to Rongo, I don't remember ever seeing this card in a freaking healthy context. It's always just been FTKs. Which, once again, Konami has done this in the past, where they would just ban cards that provide FTKs even if they were not good. I think that's fine for them to ban some FTK enablers, because I can imagine that especially in like the lower ranks where people don't have, or people don't know that they should be putting hand traps into their deck, and like a more beginner environment that some people like look up some crazy Bish Balkan FTKs and just farm with it because people don't have the answers to it. There's not many things that are worse for like a beginning player to see than like logging into Master Duel and just getting FTK by Bish Balkan or getting...
Yeah, FTKs don't belong in Master Duel. FTKs absolutely just don't belong in Master Duel, because in Master Duel you can have bots, and bots can be, you know, can run Bish Balkan, can run FTKs with ease, right? They're very easy to do, or rather to program, so they don't exist. They surrender the game if they don't, you know, if they don't get FTK. They play the game out if they do have FTK. It's the worst experience on a fundamental level. They are a blight, and they shouldn't exist in the game. You don't, like, FTK should not exist in this game.
Getting Rongoed, right? People that are in bronze and silver have told me that they see this FTK all the time. They're very happy. Okay, yeah, then, I mean, it's not something that I personally experienced, but if other people say they do, then, I mean, very good riddance regardless, yeah. We have... Oh!
Let's
Blood
go!
Dragon. Holy shit, is Master Duel banning Maxx C? Because they're getting...
What? Wait, what? Okay, hold on. I need to hear this. I don't understand. Why? Why do you think they're gonna ban Maxx C? I don't. Okay, let's see.
Getting rid of a lot of degen shit right now. Now, I'm not assuming that Maxx C is on this list because Twitter would have literally exploded. But this almost feels like they are preparing for it. So far, the last couple ban lists since Master Duel's implementation, they felt more like OCG people making the decisions, right? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. People involved with both Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and Master Duel will know.
I feel like it still feels like that. I still feel like it feels like that OCG is making most of the decisions, because that's why you see Grass at 1. That's why you see Grass at 1 and it's not completely banned. It's because, oh, you could play your 60 card deck. You could play your cringe little 60 card deck. It's okay. It's okay. We won't ban it. You could still play it. Look, it's still there. It's still there in the game. You know? I feel like it is still OCG heavy. And, you know, I don't see Block Dragon getting banned. Like, yeah, Block Dragon is antithetical to that, right? It is a counter to that. They're basically saying Adamantipator shouldn't be played. But I think it's also to stop Super Heavy Samurai, right, from being broken as well. So I don't think it has any correlation. I don't think they're trying to get rid of all the degenerate cards or whatever. I feel like Maxx C is going to stay unless, you know, a lot of people stop playing the game because of Maxx C. Until a lot of people stop playing this game, like there's a mass exodus, there's a new hot card game that came out and everyone else is playing that. I don't see them ever banning Maxx C.
Know what I'm talking about. It's like there seems to be different philosophies behind the TCG ban list and the OCG ban list. Where like the OCG is letting a lot of degenerate stuff roaming around, but they have Maxx C, and then in the TCG they do a lot of things differently, which I personally prefer. I personally prefer the TCG ban list a lot over the OCG ban list. And the Master Duel ban list has kind of been going the OCG path, and now it feels like they are banning a lot of stuff that, I mean, people have been asking for this forever, and they're finally doing it. And I'm wondering if maybe they want to take a lot of the degen stuff out of the game bit by bit, and then eventually end up in a place where you could remove Maxx C from the game. Just food for
That's so cope. That's so cope.
Thought and massive copium. Block Dragon should be banned, and if you don't think it should be banned, if you're sad about this, sucks to be wrong, I guess. This card deserves to be banned 100%. Merly? Merly's banned? I guess there has been no Tearlament hits so far. I was kind of like, where are the Tearlament hits besides the Ishizu cards? They just left Kid Kalos alive? Is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think whether I like this or not. In my opinion, Kid Kalos should be banned. The one thing I like about this is that they are approaching it differently than in the TCG and the OCG.
I like it when Master Duel does things differently from both existing formats. I think it's cooler, it's more fun, it makes it a more interesting sort of game. Like even though I'm saying like Tearlaments are dead without Merly, I don't actually know that to be true, right? Because Kid Kalos is still there. Kid Kalos is still there. I just think limiting it down to 2 fusions is a pretty severe hit, and being them being unable to get into Elf, into Sprint for those consistency plays, I also think that's really, really tough.
Resulting in a different game, which in some ways
it becomes a different game.
Being different is very frustrating, but it's kind of something that we have to like live with, right? It's always been like that. Like Master Duel,
I don't think it's frustrating. I think it's nice. I think it's fresh. I like it when like the game is different. There's a different take on the game. What I don't like is like Digimon trading card game English is always like a handful of sets behind JP Digimon. And so what happens is that when the new sets come in English, the meta is practically figured out. Like it's already figured out. We already know what the strongest decks are. And I feel like that's dumb. That's the one thing I hated the most about Digimon card game in English, is because we always got things before JP. And then if we always get things before JP, then it's the information is already out there. Everything's already figured out. And there's no discovery, there's no like a lot of fun. There's not a lot of fun with Digimon. Or like in terms of deck building.
Duel has always been different from the TCG and OCG because of release schedule and whatnot. I'm gonna tell you, if I have to play the same cards a couple months later, I prefer the format to be different rather than just being the same format again.
Yeah, exactly. Because you are playing with older cards, thus having a new format, a new take on this timeline, right? We're like playing in a we're basically in Master Duel. It's like you're playing in an alternate universe, so to speak, right? It's like you're playing in an alternate universe, and because the ban list is different, not absolutely everything is one-to-one. Not everything is solved. So that's what I like about Master Duel, and it's what I didn't really like about Digimon, is because there's no difference between English and JP. There's no difference between English and Japanese Digimon. The only difference is that English is behind by a lot, which I think is stupid.
They just banned Kid Kalos, we would basically be looking at Tearlaments in a stage where it was basically the same deck that it is in the OCG right now. But now it's very different.
Yeah.
Because Merly is a huge hit. People have been asking for this hit in the TCG. People were like, what if we just ban Merly? Because this stops so many things, right? The most obvious thing is it takes away one Tearlament name. Which means instead of 3 fusions per turn, we only have 2 fusions per turn, right? That is a big difference.
It is.
Plus, it inherently reduces the amount of good mills that we have, right? Because instead of 6 good mills, we only have 4 good mills for fusion effects.
Right, and you only have 1 Kelbeck now, as opposed to a Kelbeck and 2 yugioh, or whatever, right? I don't know exactly what the ratio was, but it's basically, out of all the millers, there are only 3.
Merly was also by far, in my opinion, the best Tearlaments name because it had so much synergy with Sprint and Elf. And also...
And Kid Kalos. Kid Kalos, like, they see a free Merly in the grave, they're like, yep, I'm picking that up, and I'm searching crime. I'm picking Merly up, and I'm searching crime, I'm searching Soliek, I milled an extra Merly? Happy birthday to me, I'm gonna revive it.
You don't have the mill 8 play. Right? If you go normal summon Rhinoheart,
which no mill 8, no mill 8, you have 1 miller. No mill 8, and you have 1 miller. You're totally reliant on like Scream and Kid Kalos now. There's no mill 8.
Your most consistent starter in Tearlaments. If you go Kid Kalos target itself after, what do you even summon? It does make the deck significantly worse. Out of all the hits they've done in Master Duel, this is by far the biggest one to Tearlaments.
Let's go. People always, like, people have been saying, like, dude, like, Tearlaments are fine. Tearlaments are not dead. It's like, dude, this is a huge hit. This is ridiculously bad for them, dude. I think it's such a bad hit that they are dead and they're basically left to be a sub-engine. But, I mean, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. I think they will be. They do have a place as a sub engine. They probably will find their home with branded Despia or whatever. But as far as a pure deck, a pure Tearlament deck, tier 0, tier 1 Tearlament deck, that's dead. It's gone. You're not seeing it.
Honestly, I am intrigued by this because we all know how Tearlament plays if they had just banned Kid Kalos. We all know what happens.
Exactly.
We have that in the TCG. We have that in the OCG. We know what's going to happen, right? But what we don't know is what happens if they just ban Merly. So I'm very interested in this. I actually like this. That is the list. Is this the biggest ban list we've ever had in Master Duel? I would think so. I'm a fan of this. Now, listen, there is still stuff in Master Duel that is problematic. I'm looking at Maxx C specifically. That is the biggest question on my mind. And I don't mean to inject too much copium into all of you guys, but I am wondering what the idea here is. I am wondering if they saw all the feedback, all the complaints about the, you know, the 90% Maxx C usage rate and whatnot. Let me be clear. With the current...
dude. That's why that's why like Fluander Reese got the boot. That's why Fluander Reese got the boot, because Fluander Reese was nerfing Maxx C inherently. It was making people think about, maybe I should be playing Maxx C when there's a lot of Fluander Reese in this rank. You know, they literally killed Fluander Reese for Maxx C to exist. And Rongo Miniad, that's just a degenerate card. Bish Balkan is FTK bots, right? Block Dragon, they are preparing against Super Heavy Samurai Adamancipator, right? They are just they're just pre-hitting. It's not that they're all of a sudden have a change of heart. They want to ban Maxx C. That's not the case. It's 90%, over 90% usage. They're not banning it. They will only ban it when people stop playing Master Duel. And by that time, it'll be too late.
State of Master Duel, they cannot just ban Maxx C and leave it as that is. They need to do so much more before they can ban Maxx C, right? Even after these bans on the screen right now, we still have Protoss, Aurora Dawn, Chaos Ruler. We have so many cards that would just run rampant if Maxx C just got banned, right? Galaxy Tomahawk, freaking Spiral as a whole. If they banned Maxx C right now, they would have to ban 10, 15, maybe 20 more cards. And I just don't think they want to do all of that at once. I personally don't think that's something you want to do as a company because it shines very bad light onto your game, right? It's basically like admitting that all of those cards are problematic. It would be like, hey, look, we fucked up in the last freaking 6 years of card design. We have to ban 20 cards at once. We all know that's technically what
never
they
gonna
need to
happen.
do. They are problematic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they are not. I'm just saying that just doing that and just admitting it openly is not a very good practice for them.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Right? I understand that if they reach the conclusion, hey, we have to get rid of some problems, that you don't do it all at once. Because they don't have a reason to, right? They can just do it slowly. We get a ban list every month, dude. Next month, we get another couple bans. And then the month after, we get another couple bans. And then eventually, they can be like, all right, a lot of this stuff is now gone.
Nah.
Now we can get rid of Maxx C. And that was my copium for the day. I hope that's what they're doing. It might be hella copium, but I'm gonna be real with you. They haven't done a ban list like this in a long time, and I feel like something has to have changed about their way of thinking, right? You don't just have Block Dragon in your game for more than 1.5 years, and then just suddenly decide like, hey, yeah, Block Dragon, Bish Balkan, and Rongo kind of problematic. You have to change your way of thinking about the game, right? Like, that card has been in the game since the start, and it's been a problem since the start. And they had to have a reason why they kept it in the game, and they have to have the reason why they changed their way of thinking about it right now. So I think that's interesting. I don't think it's a coincidence that this happens right after.
I think Konami's just incompetent. I think Konami's just incompetent. I don't think they are aware of every card that exists, obviously. They are aware of all the strategies that exist. When Bish Balkan is banned, it's because Bish Balkan's being played a lot. It's coming up in their usage statistics, right? It's coming up in their usage statistics that Bish Balkan is being played more in lower ranks. FTK, it's being more successful, so they're banning it. Rongo Miniad, I would agree. Like, I don't think Rongo Miniad is suddenly being used that much more. But then again, you see MX Saber Invoker coming back in, right? Or maybe with the new archetypes that are coming in, like, it's more easy to exploit it. That's what I would say. With regards to Block Dragon, we know that to be the case with Super Heavy Samurai and Emancipator, right? So, I don't know. I see what he's saying, like, that these changes are a little out of character. They're off-brand, and thus maybe there's, like, some way, maybe Konami changed their mind. Maybe they have different minds working on the ban list, but I just don't think that will ever happen. Like, the way he's, like, just as he said, Konami is not going to ban 20 different cards to ban Maxx C. They won't do it in one fell swoop, and personally, I don't think they're going to take little small shots at these cards either. I don't think it's going to be a slow roll. I think these bans are coincidental. And they're for upcoming sets. Basically, why rock the boat? Why would Konami rock the boat? The people who play Master Duel is their biggest way to play Master Duel, to play standard, to play standard format Yu-Gi-Oh! Why would they rock the boat? People still play the game. It's their biggest way of people playing this game. It's doing so very well on Steam. It got very good reviews, right, by most people for being a very free-to-play, very accessible game There are so many people playing Master Duel. Why would they rock the boat? If they ban Maxx C, it's not all of a sudden magically going to generate 20,000 more players or anything like that. No. At this point, banning Maxx C is just their saving grace. It's their ace in the hole. If people start losing interest in the game, that's when they'll ban Maxx C. That's my take on it. Let's see what else he has to say.
The 90% Maxx C outcry. Remember the board meeting situation a couple weeks ago where the freaking investors said that Yu-Gi-Oh has some problems, you know?
One inquiry met with a very dismissive response. One inquiry. Not a whole meeting based off the inquiry. It was one guy in one meeting, one inquiry, almost equivalent to a fan letter. It was almost equivalent to a fan letter. Because if you break down what he said, how did you ever think Master Duel was going to convert people to paper? It was not meant to. It was meant to further the Yu-Gi-Oh IP, further the brand, to bring this game that's dying to as many people as possible. That's all it was meant to do, and exist on its own, to be another revenue source. And it's doing a great job of that. And they need to put more money into it and figure out other ways to monetize it. But it's not to convert them. Because you're not going to tell someone that they can play this game for free, but to play paper, they have to spend $300. That's not a sell. That is way too difficult. Nobody's going to spend $300 to play this game when they come from Master Duel. I appreciate your critical take on the shareholder meeting. It did feel like cherry picking. Yeah. Maybe we could say what he says doesn't matter, but he is the guy that won the WCQ and his team in Master Duel. That doesn't matter. I'm not saying what he says doesn't matter. I'm just saying that... I'm not saying that what he says doesn't matter. I'm just talking about what he's saying, and I'm sharing with you why I think some opinions of his are wrong. That's it. Right? A lot of his opinions are very valid, but I also think that they are very copium. And I hate Runix.
I don't know if this is a coincidence or not. I don't think so. I think drastically changing their way of approaching a ban list is one way how they deal with those things. So that's cool.
Master Duel almost brought me back to paper. I'm too broke at the moment, but I do want to go to some locals and test my combos in the flesh. See, I'm sorry that I laughed about that, but see, it just proves my point, though, right? That people aren't jumping ship from Master Duel to paper. Once they learn the cost not only in monetary-wise, right? Once they learn the fact that, like, if I'm going to play the deck that I'm playing in Master Duel, I have to shell out $300, $500. Once they learn that, and also the fact that there's not a system that arbiters over the rules, that handles all the rules, that handles all the resolutions, once they learn that, they go running the opposite direction. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not meant to work. It was meant to exist on its own as its own source of revenue, right? And there weren't that many high hopes for it, I think, because what they released with, the amount of assets that they had for it, the amount of like monetization ways that they had for it was very, very small, especially when you compare it to Cross Duel, which came out in roughly the same time period and had way more assets, way more resources, way more things allocated to it, right? It's just very clear to me that Master Duel was a happy accident, and hopefully they run with it, but I don't really have a lot of faith that they will. Yeah, that was a good video. Joshua Schmidt, great guy, obviously. I'm always appreciative of people in this space sharing their opinions. It's good, it's fun to talk about with you guys, make videos about it as well. So, make sure you click the link, leave a like if you enjoyed their video, and subscribe to them if you haven't already.